Have you ever wondered why the more you try to control your life, the more chaotic it seems to become? You run, plan, force things, and yet everything falls apart. But what if I told you that true power doesn't lie in control but in calm? In this video, you'll discover 11 Stoic lessons that will teach you how to stay calm and use it as your greatest advantage. But this isn't just pretty theory or empty words. These are real strategies tested for centuries by the Stoics that can transform the way you think and act. Are you ready to learn how to stay calm and use it to guide you to success? Let's get started. But before we begin, let me tell you the story of James Stockdale, a man who endured one of the toughest trials anyone could face and who, thanks to his calm and stoic philosophy, managed to persevere. James was a U.S. Navy pilot, a man trained for any situation, someone who had absolute control over his aircraft, his missions, and his decisions, until one day in the middle of the Vietnam War, everything changed in a matter of seconds. His plane was shot down. There was no time to think, only the impact, the free fall, the desperation in the air. He ejected with his parachute, and before he even touched the ground, he knew what was coming, because he didn't land in friendly territory. He fell straight into enemy hands. They captured him, beat him, dragged him like he was nothing more than a piece of meat that had fallen from the sky. And when he arrived at the prisoner of war camp, his real test began. They chained him up, tortured him, and left him in isolation for days on end with no contact with anyone. 7 years, not 7 days, not 7 months, 7 years locked in a tiny cell, not knowing if he would ever see the sunlight again, not knowing if each day would be his last. Many men in his situation broke, they gave up, they lost hope, and let fear consume them. But James didn't. Not because he was physically stronger, not because he had more endurance than the others, but because he had something that made him invincible, control over his mind. James wasn't just a soldier, he was also a student of Stoicism. And while he was trapped, he remembered the words of Epictetus, "It is not circumstances themselves that harm us, but our interpretation of them." He couldn't control his situation, but he could control how he experienced it. He couldn't stop them from beating him, but he could stop them from defeating him. He couldn't escape, but he could hold on to the one thing no one could take from him, his attitude. So he did something that changed everything. Instead of sinking into despair, he decided he would find a way to resist. He became the secret leader of the prisoners, creating a coded communication system so they wouldn't feel alone. He taught them how to resist psychologically, how to keep the enemy from breaking them from the inside. While his captors tried to crush him, he kept repeating to himself, "This does not define me. I am stronger than this." And he was. He survived. And when he was finally freed after 7 years of horror, someone asked him, "How did you endure it?" His answer was simple, "I accepted reality, but I never lost faith in my ability to overcome it." Stockdale understood something that many never do. You don't control what happens to you, but you do control how you respond. And that was the key to his survival. So tell me, what's stealing your calm today? A problem at work? An argument? A bad day? Do you feel like everything is out of control? If James could find strength in the middle of the worst nightmare imaginable, so can you. No matter how difficult the situation seems, you always have control over one thing, your response. And in this video, I'm going to show you how. Let's get to it. Before we continue, if you're finding value in this content, consider subscribing and becoming an exclusive member for access to unique perks, and let us know in the comments, what does staying calm in a chaotic world mean to you? Or simply type, "I am Stoic." We want to hear your thoughts and grow together with you. Calm is your greatest weapon. Imagine you're a Formula One driver. Your hands grip the wheel firmly, the engines roar, and the track feels like a scorching desert of asphalt. You're on the final stretch, just seconds away from first place. Suddenly, as you take a sharp turn, the car loses traction. The wheel feels weightless. Control slips away and the world moves too fast. This is the defining moment. You have two options. The first, panic. Freeze. React with fear and jerk the wheel impulsively without thinking. The result? You end up in the gravel, off the track, and out of the race. The second option, stay calm. Feel the car sliding, but don't let desperation take over. Ease off the accelerator for a moment, correct with precision, and regain control at just the right time. The best drivers in the world aren't the fastest. They're the ones who keep a cool head when everything spins out of control. They don't fight the curve. They understand it and use it to their advantage. Life works the same way. It's not about avoiding problems. It's about learning to respond with clarity when they show up. If you look at the most successful people, you'll notice something they all have in common. It's not that they never face crises or that their lives are perfect. It's that when the world turns against them, they stay on track. They don't lose control. They don't let fear dictate their decisions. Ryan Holiday, author of The Obstacle is the Way, calls this a strategic advantage. He says real strength isn't in speed or aggression, but in the ability to stay composed when everything seems to be falling apart. And this isn't just empty motivation. It's because a calm mind makes better decisions. Marcus Aurelius understood this centuries ago. If you are disturbed by something external, it is not the thing itself that troubles you but your judgment about it. And today, neuroscience backs this up. When we react impulsively, it's the amygdala taking control, the part of the brain responsible for emotional responses like fear, anger, and frustration. But when we manage to stay calm, we activate the prefrontal cortex, the part that allows us to reason, evaluate, and make intelligent decisions. A study from the Institute of Cognitive Neuroscience in London found that people who train their ability to stay calm under pressure not only experience less stress but also achieve better long-term results. They don't make decisions based on momentary emotions, they act based on strategy. Now I know what you're thinking. This all sounds great, but how do you actually apply it in real life? Because sure, it's easy to talk about staying calm when you're watching a video or reading a book. The real challenge comes when reality hits, when the curve appears out of nowhere and you feel like you're about to lose control. That's why here are 2 strategies to train your mind starting today. The first is the observer technique. Imagine you're not the one experiencing the situation, but rather a spectator watching a movie. What advice would you give the main character? This exercise helps you distance yourself emotionally and think more objectively. And here's the strategy that will truly set you up for success. Don't wait for a crisis to practice this. Train your calmness every single day. How? For example, imagine you come home from the grocery store, start unpacking, and suddenly the carton of eggs decides to do park hour off the counter and onto the floor, a disaster. Naturally, your first instinct might be to yell, curse gravity, and wonder why life hates you. But this is your test. If something as small as this can steal your calm, what do you think will happen when you face a real problem? If you can't control your mind in the small moments, you won't be able to in the big ones either. Calm doesn't magically appear when you need it most. It's a muscle that you train every day. So tell me, do you really want to keep reacting like a rookie driver who loses their head at the first sharp turn? If staying calm makes you stronger, why are you still letting the world push you off track? Can you really control everything? Have you ever had one of those days where nothing goes as planned? You wake up early. Today is going to be a great day. You have everything scheduled down to the last detail. You're going to finish that important project, work out, prepare a special dinner. Nothing can go wrong. But then everything starts to fall apart. Your boss asks for something urgent that wasn't in your plans. A friend cancels dinner at the last minute. You call someone expecting support, and instead they hit you with a comment that ruins your mood. You feel frustration creeping in, nothing is going as expected and you can't stand it. And this is where the real problem begins, because we don't just want to control our own lives, we want to control others too. We want people to react the way we imagine, for our plans to unfold exactly as we designed them, for everything to go perfectly. So tell me, how many times has this happened to you? How many times have you tried to change someone, to make them see reason, to convince them to do things the way you believe they should be done? Maybe you give advice to a friend who keeps making the same mistakes. Or you try to get your partner to see things from your perspective, but they don't change. Or you wish your parents would stop worrying so much about you, that they'd understand your way of thinking. And when they don't, you get angry, frustrated, and feel like everything is going wrong. The problem isn't the situation. It's your attachment to the idea that you can control it. Naval Ravikant, investor and entrepreneur, explained this in one of his talks about happiness and personal success. Suffering comes from the desire to control the uncontrollable. He was talking about how so many people spend their lives trying to force outcomes, manipulate circumstances, or change others, when in reality, the key is to let go and focus only on what is within our control. And he was right. Because the more you try to force things, the more you resist reality, and the more anxiety, frustration, and stress you accumulate. But this isn't just an idea from modern speakers. Epictetus said it more than 2,000 years ago, some things are up to us, and some are not. Only those who cling to what they cannot control will suffer. Science backs this up as well. A study from Stanford University analyzed the impact of uncertainty on emotional well-being. How did they do it? They divided a group of people into two situations. The first group was given a task where they had full control over the outcome. The second group was given a task where the results depended on external factors they couldn't influence. Then they measured their stress levels. And do you know what they found? The people who accepted uncertainty showed lower anxiety, greater adaptability, and a more stable emotional state. Meanwhile, those who clung to control felt constantly frustrated and exhausted. Now tell me, which side do you think you'd be on? The side of those who accept what they can't change and focus on what they can? Or the side of those who fight against the wind, expecting it to blow in their direction? If you want to learn how to live without every obstacle knocking you off balance and continue on your path to success, I have two challenges for you. First, the so what challenge. The next time something doesn't go as planned, ask yourself, so what? Will this matter in 5 years? Because many times, stress comes from things you won't even remember in a few months. Now let me tell you about the second challenge, and honestly, I'm almost afraid to say it because I know your first reaction will be a firm no way. But trust me, this could change your life. We'll call it controlled chaos. 1 day a week, stop planning everything down to the last detail. Allow yourself to go with the flow without rigid expectations. You'll be surprised at how your mind adapts and how by letting go of control, you actually gain it. Life isn't a highway where everything follows the plan you mapped out. It's more like sailing in open waters. You can't avoid the waves, the storms, or the shifts in direction, but you can learn to adjust your sails, let go of what isn't up to you, and focus on the only thing you truly can control: your decisions, your attitude, and your response to every situation. That's where real success lies. Not in trying to control everything, but in knowing how to adapt, flow, and take charge of what's truly in your hands. Be grateful before you complain, my friend. Your brain is like a garden. What you plant in it is what ends up growing. If every day you water it with stress, complaints, and negativity, you'll get a dry, thorn-filled wasteland. And no, this isn't just a nice metaphor. A group of scientists at the University of Berkeley conducted an experiment dividing people into two groups. One wrote down 3 things they were grateful for every night, while the other wrote about anything. Weeks later, the first group showed increased activity in the prefrontal cortex, responsible for calmness, decision-making, and emotional well-being, while the second group's brains remained unchanged. Gratitude might seem trivial, but it's not, I know from personal experience. I used to think it was pointless until I gave it a shot, and my mindset completely shifted. As Seneca said, it is not happiness that makes us grateful, but gratitude that makes us happy. Think about this. You wake up on Monday and immediately wish for a different life, a different job, more money, more time. But when has it ever been enough? If you don't train your mind to see the good, it will only see the bad. So, start your day with gratitude. Say thank you out loud with intention. Write down 3 good things before bed, and focus on what you have, not what you lack. The peace you seek isn't in what you don't have yet, but in how you choose to see your life. Complaining changes nothing. Gratitude changes everything. Think well and attract the best. A friend of mine received life-changing news, a serious health issue that turned his world upside down. Hospitals, tests, and worst of all, his own mind working against him. Every morning, he woke up with the same anxious thoughts until he heard a talk by Tony Robbins. The quality of your thoughts defines the quality of your life. It reminded him of something Marcus Aurelius said nearly 2,000 years ago: the happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. That's when it hit him. He couldn't control his illness, but he could control how he faced it. He began starting each day with a positive thought. Today, I'll find something to laugh about, or today, I'll enjoy my time with family. His situation didn't change, but his mindset did. Marcus Aurelius understood that the greatest battle is against our own thoughts. He didn't focus on problems, he focused on solutions. So, how are you using your mind? Are you programming it to attract the best, or filling it with worries? Reframe negative thoughts. Replace "I can't handle this" with "this is tough, but I'll find a way." Distance yourself from negativity. It's contagious. And visualize positive outcomes before starting your day. Your mind is the filter through which you see reality. If you train yourself to think well, you'll attract opportunities, make better decisions, and become the best version of yourself. Your attention defines your reality. Walking down the street, do you focus on rushing people, traffic, and noise, or do you notice the sun lighting up the buildings, the sound of the wind, a random smile? Reality is the same for everyone, but how you perceive it depends on where you place your attention. It's like the famous bus meme. Two people on the same journey, one seeing a breathtaking landscape, the other staring at a rock. The difference isn't the road, it's which side they chose to sit on. Life works the same way. If you focus only on what's wrong, your world will feel like a wall of stone. But if you turn your head in the right direction, you might realize the view was always beautiful. Will Smith once said that success and happiness come from ignoring distractions and focusing on what truly matters. Your attention is like an Instagram filter. If it's full of complaints, worries, and problems, your world will seem dark. But if you shift focus to what you can control, your entire world transforms. Try this. Think about something that made you anxious recently. Now, imagine that instead of focusing on it, you had directed your attention to a small achievement or a moment of peace. Would your mental state have been the same? If you want to regain your sense of calm, do a mental diet. Just like you watch what you eat, watch what you feed your mind. Reduce negative news and filter social media content. When you get stuck in negative thoughts, do an attention reset. Change your focus, take a walk, or reframe the situation. Surround yourself with people who reinforce what you want to attract. As Epictetus said, "Where your attention goes, there is your soul." Train your attention to focus on what strengthens you, and you'll become more resilient, make better decisions, and stay calm in any situation. If you don't rest, your mind shuts down. How many times have you forced yourself to keep going when you were already exhausted? You sit in front of your computer, trying to focus, but your mind feels like a TV with bad reception. You read the same sentence repeatedly, drink another coffee, yet still can't think clearly. And instead of resting, you push yourself harder. But does that actually help? Of course not. You just end up making more mistakes and feeling worse. Here's the truth. Rest is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Look at your phone. If you use it non-stop without charging, it shuts down. No matter how much you shake it or yell at it, it won't turn back on until it gets what it needs, rest. So why treat your brain any differently? The Stoics understood this centuries ago. Seneca said, "Even the sharpest sword needs rest to keep its edge." A brilliant mind, if exhausted, loses its clarity. He saw reflection, calm, and recovery not as wasted time, but as a strategy to come back stronger. Today, neuroscience confirms it. Rest improves memory, learning, and self-control. Think of your brain as a whiteboard. Each day, you write everything you learn and decide. But if you never erase it, it clutters and confuses. Sleep wipes that board clean, making room for new ideas and clear decisions. If your life feels too chaotic for rest, start with these 3 strategies. First, reduce screen time before bed. The blue light from your phone tricks your brain into thinking it's still daytime, making it harder to unwind. Second, create a nighttime routine. It doesn't have to be complicated, just something that signals to your brain that it's time to disconnect. Third, listen to your body. If you feel like you need a break, take it. Rest isn't weakness, it's strategy. Athletes don't train non-stop because they know performance depends on recovery. You are the athlete of your own life. Believe me, resting isn't a waste of time. It's recharging your energy so you can be stronger the next day. Because if you truly want to achieve success, you don't need more hours of mindless work. You need more clarity, more focus, and more calm. Your morning shapes your destiny. Imagine this: Marcus Aurelius and Seneca wake up in the 21st century. Marcus Aurelius opens his eyes and the first thing he does is grab his phone. He checks his notifications, sees unread emails from the Senate, someone on Twitter is criticizing his latest decree, and to top it off, the news is reporting trouble at the empire's borders. He sighs, gets up reluctantly, and while pouring his coffee, he's already thinking about how exhausting the day will be. Seneca, on the other hand, wakes up calmly. Before moving, he takes a deep breath and asks himself, what kind of day do I want to have? He gets up without rushing, stretches, drinks water, and takes out his journal to write down some reflections. Then, without checking his phone, he goes for a walk, feeling the fresh air on his face. One starts the day dragged down by circumstances, the other takes control. And you, who do you resemble more in the mornings? Many people start their day on autopilot. They wake up, check their phone, fill their heads with information and worries before even getting out of bed. They don't prepare their minds, they don't direct their focus, they just throw themselves into the day without control. But imagine what would happen if instead of reacting to everything that comes your way, you chose how to start your day. Science now confirms that this isn't just philosophy. Dr. Rangan Chatterjee, an expert in health and wellness, explains that having a clear morning routine is key to managing stress and staying calm.